All right, Colts Nation, it is draft week, and I will tell you something right now. We have a whole lot of things to cover and not a whole lot of time. Today is Tuesday, April 22nd. The draft, the first round of the draft, is Thursday, April 24th. So we will be making sure to put out an episode every single day leading into the draft. Right off the bat, the first thing we're going to have to talk about yesterday. Chris Ballard, as he would do every single year, as every GM does every single year, held a press conference to talk to the media a little bit about his draft process. Now, unfortunately, once again, the Colts media failed to get him to tell us who it is that he's drafting with the number 14 overall pick. So really, did we learn anything at all? That can be debated either way. I do think we learned one thing, though, because there was a few comments that really stood out to me. But real quick, before we even get into any of that, we're giving away some free stuff, okay? For those of you who have been here for a while, and listen, if you don't care about winning cool Colts memorabilia for absolutely nothing at all, then you could go ahead and skip past this. But I promise you're going to be pleased with these prizes, okay? For those of you who have been here for a while, you know that I used to record in a different set. We recently changed the set over here, and I used to have 4 paintings behind me. Now I only have 2. That means that I have 2 paintings right now that have absolutely no use whatsoever. So I figured, why not give them away to you guys? So we have 2 paintings. There will be 2 winners. 1 painting for each of you guys, along with a handwritten note from me as a token of my appreciation for you being here this early on in the building of this community. Now, for those of you who are watching on video, you're going to see what they are. We're going to start off with the first one right here. The linebacker, formerly known as Darius. Okay, these are like heavy duty. I think I bought these on Etsy. Point being, they were like over $100 each. So you can win this painting of Shaquille Leonard with a handwritten note from me, or you can win, and this is the real prize right here. This is the one. I mean, this is worth a lot of money. This is good stuff. The Sheriff, Peyton Manning. Both of these paintings we will be giving away the Monday following the draft. I believe that's April 28th. All you have to do to enter is go into the description of this episode, click the link to go to my account on Twitter, or X as the kids would call it, and just follow me. That's it. You don't have to like anything, repost anything, comment on anything, nothing. Literally, just follow me, and you are entered in the giveaway to win those items. Once again, winner will be announced Monday, April 28th on an episode of the show. I'll announce it on the episode. I'll post it on X, the whole deal, okay? But we want to grow the things over there. So kind of to get things started, let's do this giveaway. And that's that. But back to business, okay? One thing that I truly believed about the Indianapolis Colts going into this draft is that they would not draft Colston Loveland with that number 14 overall pick. He's the other tight end that people are talking about in the first round, for those of you not privy, okay? Tyler Warren, of course, is the name everybody wants, but a lot of people are looking at Colston Loveland as the, what you would call, what is that, like a consolation prize at the number 14 overall pick. Now, my issue with that personally is that I just don't see him as a game-changing type of player. And I think when you're drafting a guy in the first round, you don't exactly want a guy that just fills a positional need. You want a guy that you think can come in and be a real difference maker on day one. And after this press conference with Chris Ballard that we saw yesterday, I am more confident than ever in doubling down on that take. The Colts will not be drafting Colston Loveland with that 14th overall pick. Why? What about that press conference made me so confident? Well, one thing Chris Ballard did say is that he guarantees that the Colts board looks different than the consensus may look for who the Colts might be interested in this draft. That is something, by the way, that Chris Ballard said. You could talk about smoke and mirrors. You can say don't trust Ballard. Say what you want about Chris Ballard. One thing he will not do is lie to us. That is why he pisses so many of you guys off. When he says we like our guys, the reason that bothers you so much is because he's telling you the truth. He says we like our guys and then doesn't address positions of need, okay? So if Chris Ballard is telling you that their board looks different, you can take that to the bank. It absolutely does We also learned this last year when he kind of shocked all of us by drafting a Latu, okay? So that's one thing that stood out to me that he said. Another thing he said is reaching for, and I'm going to paraphrase, reaching for positional needs, that's when you get into problems. Well, does that not sound exactly like what it is that I'm worried about with Colston Loveland? Now, I'm not saying that me and Chris Ballard think exactly the same, but many of you know I'm one of the all-time Chris Ballard apologists, primarily because I feel like so often I find myself on the same page with what it is that he's preaching. He also spoke about the depth at the tight end position this year and mentioned guys like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, all not being first-round picks. So you piece all of those comments together and couple it with the fact that Colston Loveland is, in my opinion, undoubtedly a reach at the number 14 overall pick. I think we can safely say that the Indianapolis Colts will not be drafting him with that pick. Now, maybe if they were to trade back and he's still there, they might do it. But if you were to tell me that the Colts are going to stay at 14 and draft Colston Loveland with the 14th overall pick and give that to me as a combo meal, that statement is off the board. If you ask me today on April 22nd, only a couple days from the draft. Now, one thing you're not going to see me do in the next few days is a mock draft. Why? Because those things are absolutely fucking useless. It is impossible to be accurate with those in any capacity whatsoever, because here's the problem you run into. Number one, if you start trying to project trades in your mock draft, you're already into the land of nonsense, okay? But on the flip side of things, if you don't do any trades in your mock draft, you're automatically disqualifying yourself from being right, because there's always going to be trades on draft day. Hell, the Colts themselves, since the year 2020, have picked from their original second round pick going into the draft only one time, meaning 4 out of the past 5 years, the Colts have moved, traded, maneuvered, whatever it is that you want to call it, in some capacity in the second round, meaning there's a high likelihood that when you look at where the Colts' second round pick is today, that may not be where it is. In fact, it's likely, according to the past 5 years, an 80% chance that that will not be the pick that they pick from in the second round on draft day. So given that, if you ask me, mock drafts as a whole, just not at all practical. So what we're going to do today is go over something that I think is more important for us as Colts fans, and that's to start mentally preparing for a pick that it is that we are not expected. Because right now, by and large, broad stroke for Colts fans, if this 14th overall pick is not Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, or Jahad Campbell, I get the sense, and I may be wrong about this, but I get the sense that a lot of you guys are basically just going to be up in arms about it. Like, you guys are just going to be devastated, may be a strong word, but you guys are going to be a little bit like, what the fuck is going on here? But I want to make sure that you guys are not surprised when this team goes offensive line, defensive line, or edge rusher with that 14th overall pick, particularly if Tyler Warren is not there. If Tyler Warren is there, I truly believe that the Colts not only can't pass him up with that pick, but they won't pass him up with that pick. If he falls to 14, and I don't think he does, I think you look at teams like the Jets at number 7, even the Bears at number 10. Right now, I just don't see it as likely he gets there. If he does, the Colts will take him. But if he's not, which is more likely, I think they're going to take the wait and see approach at tight end, whether it be drafting a guy that they like in the second, third, fourth round, or maybe they see if a Dallas Goedert or a Mark Andrews can be acquired in the draft, perhaps even as part of the package where another team would trade up to their pick, therefore having the Colts trade back. Maybe the Eagles trade up and include Goddard in that, or the Ravens trade up and include Andrews in that. All part of the possibility, and that, by the way, I would far prefer than drafting Colston Loveland at the 14th overall pick. But either way, not the point of today's episode per se. We're going to go over a few guys that I can see the Colts drafting that people aren't talking too much about. And I'm going to go over not only who they are, but why I feel that way. But before we do, you know what it is? I got to introduce myself. My name is Justin. This right here is the Behind the Bench Colts podcast. As always, ask anyone watching on YouTube and enjoying the show, Go ahead, shoot a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, subscribe if you want to be a part of the journey. We're on our way to 4,000 subscribers over here on the YouTube channel. We're well on our way. We're not all that close, but we will get there by the start of next season, or at least that's the goal. So if you keep coming back, enjoying the content, or perhaps today's your first day and you like what you hear, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. You make sure you never miss an episode of this show again. Audio listeners, leave a five-star review. Let the people know how much you enjoy the show, but most importantly, be civil in the comment section if you want to engage. You don't know what the person on the other end of the keyboard is going through. So if you disagree with someone, take it as an opportunity to educate them. Don't tear them down, okay? There's too much of that in this world today, okay? Not to make this a commentary on social justice and mental health, but at the same time, be nice to one another. We're all rooting for the same things. We want the Colts ultimately to be the best they can possibly be. And oh yeah, if you haven't followed me on Twitter or X yet, click the link in the description of this video. It'll bring you right there. You'll be entered to win either that painting of Shaquille Leonard or that painting of Peyton Manning with a handwritten note from yours truly to be announced next Monday, April 28th. Making sure you don't forget about that one. We're going to plug it probably twice a day until the time comes. All right, so back to the topic at hand. The regularly scheduled programming continues. First guy that Colts fans should familiarize themselves with is Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. Now, Chris Ballard's mantra, and he said it once again in this press conference, and we always hear him say this type of thing, something similar, is that you cannot have enough guys on the offensive and defensive line. Now, in fairness to Chris Ballard, that's true. Does he sometimes neglect other things for the sake of making sure he has as many guys there as possible? Yes. But as fans, we also can't take for granted the fact that we're always doing pretty well on those two things, right? Like, it's easy when you have a solid offensive and defensive line always to kind of take for granted the fact that, hey, you always have a solid offensive and defensive line. I mean, there are teams that consistently underperform in these areas, and it shows up on Sundays. If there's one thing that will always keep you competitive, it's being competitive in the trenches. Great. So, with that, Walter Nolan, again, we know how much Chris Ballard likes physical traits in players. Walter Nolan is the type of guy who, while maybe he's not a finished product right now per se, he is just so physically strong and produced at such a high level against the run, a place where the Colts were incredibly inconsistent last year. Like, the Colts, remember how tough it was for them when Grover Stewart was off the field, okay? I think you take a guy with Walter Nolan's physical tools, you put him in there with DeForest Buckner, with Grover Stewart, both of which are 31 years of age, so old enough where you need to consider life without them, but young enough where you know you still have some time of them being very productive players. You bring this guy Nolan in. He immediately comes in as a great rotational piece for the Colts that can help in the run defense, which is so important on the defensive line. And then he can build into becoming the star of the future here at the defensive tackle position. I mean, you look at what the Eagles have been able to do with guys like Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, and just bringing in guys that are young, fresh legs, and just watching them bud. Okay, this is a guy in Walter Nolan that can be a day one difference maker for the Indianapolis Colts, particularly on the defensive line where rotating guys in and out is so important to keep them fresh throughout the course of a given day. Day one difference makers are what you want with a first round pick. Because of that, Walter Nolan is a name to watch out for the Indianapolis Colts at the number 14 overall pick. Next, James Pierce Jr., edge rusher out of Tennessee. This is another guy, much like Nolan, perhaps even more so, with elite traits. When you just talk about a first step, a burst off the line, it doesn't get more enticing than a guy like James Pierce Jr. And anytime you see a guy that has elite, unique traits like he does, you have to at least give him a look, and you have to know that the Colts are going to be considering that. Right now, Laitu Latu, the number one overall pick, or the first round, not the number one overall pick, the Colts' first round pick, you get my point, last year, is being relied upon so heavily to have a big leap in year two. You got guys like Kwity Paye, who's often injured. Samson Ebukam, who's coming off a torn Achilles. Both those two players also have contracts expiring at the end of this year. James Pierce is a guy, much like Walter Nolan, that the Colts can bring in, immediately let him be a rotational piece and grow into a bigger role. But again, a guy that has a chance to be a huge difference maker on day one for the Indianapolis Colts. If you're the Colts and you have Pierce and he comes in and plays well, you have Lott who take a leap. You have Kwity Paye and Ebukam who come in and are proven in their own right as guys that you can expect a reasonable level of production from. That's not a bad place to be when you're talking about having edge rushers on the team. It's a position that the Colts have not addressed at all this offseason, which to me signals that they may be looking to the draft to add to this room. James Pierce, one of these guys that has all pro potential as a pass rusher. You can't say that about many guys, okay? Doesn't mean he's going to be an all pro, but when you have someone who has the traits of an all pro pass rusher, it is hard to pass that up, particularly in the AFC with all the great quarterbacks out there, one of which being our division in CJ Stroud. You can't have enough guys that could get after the quarterback in this league. Final guy we're going to talk about for today, Mykel Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia. Now, he may not be a polished or hyper-productive pass rusher, but again, the tools are something to marvel at, okay? Now, I know a lot of the times Colts fans hear tools, right? And you think about the RAS score, and it's like, can't we just take production over the tools? Like, production oftentimes is king. I'm certainly not going to argue with you on that. But at the same time, this is a guy, Mykel Williams, who has great upside as a pass rusher, but is also proven against the run. Meaning, if he figured it out as a pass rusher, all of a sudden you're talking about having a real well-rounded, complete player on the edge, which isn't exactly the type of player that grows on trees. Georgia, much like Lou Anarumo, runs a bunch of different fronts. They run hybrid fronts. So this is a guy who can play as a power rusher for the Indianapolis Colts. He could play defensive end on the early downs, and he's a guy that you know can play against the run. He could be moved inside in third down situations as kind of a situational pass rusher in that regard. And I think if versatility and day one utility is something that the Colts are going to be considering and something that the Colts are going to be valuing, because again, right now, keep in mind, this is the first year with Lou Anarumo as defensive coordinator. We're still learning what it is that he likes. Like, we can't do the same thing we did with Gus Bradley and say, okay, we definitely know for sure what it is that we're looking out here. We don't know, but we kind of have heard at least that Lou, Smooth Lou, likes versatility. And again, first round, you're always going to look for day one production, if you will, okay? Versatility, day one utility. Mykel Williams brings both of those things for the Indianapolis Colts. Because of that, I think he's a name to watch. Am I convinced he has the sheer raw upside of a James Pierce? No. Is he as sexy of a pick as James Pierce? No. More people have heard of James Pierce. But do I think that Mykel Williams has more paths to success in this league than James Pierce? Yes, I do. Pierce is either going to be an elite pass rusher or he's not. Mykel Williams has multiple different ways to get it done and ultimately become a productive player in this league. So those right there are three names that are not being talked about that Colts fans may want to familiarize themselves with, may want to start to make peace with going into this draft. But until tomorrow, that was an episode. My name is Justin. This right here is the Ride the Bench Colts podcast. And as always, go Colts.